Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Who Work panel discussions. My name is Dawn Krusch, and we are back for our 10th panel discussion. I'm so excited to be pushing us into double digits this week with a professional that has spent years working in education and has seen both the good and the bad side of the education system in America. So no matter where you're joining in from, no matter where you are today, I'm fortunate to have you here joining us, learning something new from our professionals who are so willing to give us information about their backgrounds, share in their challenges, and how they continue to fight through change and adversity both inside and outside of the workplace. So pushing into our 10th panel discussion, we've had the opportunity to see many different sides of change and adversity, both inside and outside of the pandemic. As we look forward to expanding our panel into the future and further with other professionals from all walks of life, from all around the world, I continue to say that one of the most important aspects to me in this journey is to allow everyone to feel included and to have something for everyone. So you or any of your friends out there watching, family members, or want to get involved, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my email in the description as well as below. And you can go ahead and reach out to me and learn more about our journey here on We Who Work. So as we continue to move forward, I continue to share others' experiences, perspectives, so that we all have the ability to gain the knowledge that we need in order to become our better selves. So as we continue on, I want to formally welcome our guest here today, Miss Melissa Baker. Hi. Coming to us from right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I want to encourage you all to turn up your volume, gather a group of friends, reach out to your parent friends. If you work in education, if you know someone who works in education, I do believe you'll want to join us here today and listen into the amazing information Melissa will provide us and talk a little bit about her journey working with 6th, 7th, 8th grade school children and being a school counselor, both inside and outside of what the COVID-19 pandemic has looked like. So hello, Melissa. Thank you so much officially for being here with me.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so
yours, so it's a treat.
Melissa is a special friend to me. She is not only a woman who supports other women, she is a person who supports other professionals. And, I have seen her grow and she has watched me grow as well. And I love being on this journey with you, Melissa. And I'm so excited, you and I have had amazing conversations about, both of our professional backgrounds. But today, you get to share a little bit more with our audience, those viewers and those listeners. So without any further ado, I'm going to just kind of hand it over to you. You know how grateful I am that you're here with me today. So if you want to just give everyone a little bit of background about yourself and what you do, we'll go ahead and start there.
Perfect. So like Dawn has already said, I am a school counselor in Tennessee, and I originally went to college for psychology with a BA and a minor in sociology. And I knew I wanted to do something with education. When I originally went into college, I thought I was going to be a really great English teacher. And then I realized very quickly that teachers have one of the hardest jobs. And it was not for me. But I knew I wanted to help students kind of carve out plans for their lives and help support them in a more connected way, more emotional and mentally. So that was kind of my plan. And then I finally reached out to a classmate that I had in undergrad and kind of picked his brain of what it was like being a school counselor. And he gave me everything that he loved about the field, which was everything I wanted. So naturally, I was like, okay, I'm going to fork over $40,000 because this is going to be worth it, because this is something that I'm really passionate about and that I would really love to do. So that's what I did. And I truly would not pick another field. Like, I really, really love this field and I will definitely be staying.
I love that. And you know what? It's like I just hear it when you talk about it, to the others who don't have the honor of knowing Melissa the way I do, when we talk about it and her passion, and we've had many conversations about it, but it's really important, I think, for others to hear the perspective of you and hear the perspective of someone who might have not even originally thought that this was their path and really did find their path, because we all continuously find that every single day we find something new that we're passionate about, and then, really about taking it on and moving forward with that. So I love to hear that. And also, I just want want to encourage everyone through this conversation, all Americans, specifically right now who I'm targeting, because we're talking about the American education system, you know, I think it's so important that we know what affects our children, you know, our children, our younger generations, the future leaders of our world. I think it's extremely important that we know what they're learning, that they're being taken care of. And, you know, I think that we need to be aware of if they're gaining the skills that they need, you know, to have the productive life that they need to have. So I think that bringing light to this, Melissa, with you today, is just so important. You know, I can't say that enough. So, you know, as we start to dive deeper, I think, into this, you know, I think it's really important, like I said, to be able to hear from you, you know, what this experience like through COVID-19 this past year specifically has been, you know, from a school counselor, and really kind of hearing from those other children how, you know, the deepest depths of despair at times, and, you know, how they have been, you know, really kind of in the middle of the social aspects, the economic aspects, you know, all the different challenges that we face as adults. These children have also faced this as well. So, you know, I'd love if you could explain a little bit to our audience from your experience, you know, what are some of the challenges you've seen for your, you know, the population you've been dealing with and been counseling throughout the past year?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of different things that have definitely stuck out to me as bigger challenges this year. They were challenges initially, but they've grown. And one of them is the students' mental health. You know, they were let out of school early last year because of the start of the pandemic. And in my school district, they came back a month late. So there was a huge gap of when they ended school and when they started school. And that proposed many mental health challenges for the kids, because we were on lockdown, you know, we were very isolated. Unfortunately, a lot of the students that I work with in my school don't always have the most welcoming homes or the most stable homes, whether that's financially or other, you know, family troubles. So that has been huge for them, is being around none of their friends, or if they are around family, they get along with it, that's great. But then there's others that don't. And they really, really struggle or wonder where their next meal is coming from. Many of them, you know, lost homes. It really took a toll mentally on the kids, and not only the kids, but their families. So like the families that did lose their homes or lose everything that they had, they didn't have any resources. And I've been fortunate that my school district really stepped up and like made food banks and provided them resources where they could. But if the students' basic needs are not being met, it is nearly impossible to get them to learn. And that is one of the things, you know, that we see is just, there's a learning loss now since we were out of school from the kids. Like I said, there has been mental health issues. The suicide assessments are far more prevalent now in my work than they ever have been. I can't even put it into words exactly how much of a challenge this has been. But you know, we have more kids now failing classes than we ever have. We've seen it impact their self-esteem and their confidence, and that also impacts future opportunities for them. So they have opportunities to get scholarships in middle school to help them. This is all being impacted. Granted, they didn't count the state test this year as, you know, a milestone for the kids. It was more of a way to kind of measure the learning loss so that we can address it again next year. But my fear is now we're in a more reactive state than a proactive state. And how long it's going to take to close this learning gap that already existed, I don't know. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many amazing points you made there, Melissa. I mean, not only I think it's so paramount to discuss, you know, the mental, physical, emotional aspects that these children, you know, and young adults are facing, you know, everywhere from, like you said, you know, these things are long impacting, long term. You know, when you talk about things like your mental health and your confidence, and you know, even being able to have those basic needs and not being able to learn, you know, I think that it's so important, and it's so, I mean, we can't even discuss it enough, because we've focused so highly on the adults during the pandemic and what the adults have faced, but really thinking about this time and what, you know, the teachers are seeing, and what these school counselors such as yourself are seeing with these, you know, young adults who are struggling, you know. And you know, to think that, you know, one thing I think about is I read an article back in 2019, and 1 in every 5 students don't have access to a school counselor. So that's 8 million students who do not have that kind of support system. And so, you know, I just want to say thank you. If nobody said thank you to you today, Melissa, I want to say thank you, because you are doing very hard work, but necessary work, such as a lot of our professionals on this platform. It's hard work. Being vulnerable about these topics, because it is very difficult to discuss. And like Melissa said, to everyone listening and watching, you know, sometimes we don't even have the words, because it is so, it just is, it pulls on every heartstring and every single emotion we have to think about, you know, these children and what we can give back to them, what we need to do for them, and, you know, really what we haven't been doing for them as well. So, you know, I appreciate that. And so building off of that, Melissa, you know, you and I have had great conversations, like I said, about, you know, the diverse culture in your school, living in your area, different ethnic groups, families from, you know, high poverty areas, as well as people who come from money, kind of ranging all over the place. So, you know, how the laws that have been put in place, specifically like state laws or national laws that we've seen, you know, how have you seen that really kind of impact your students? And you know, what are some of your ideas about that?
Mm-hmm. So there is a couple of things that come to mind. One of them was the No Child Left Behind Act. You know, essentially what happened there is it sounds really great on paper, but when we start implementing it and doing it for a few years, you start to see the kinks in it. And essentially what has happened is our teachers their performance and like their jobs are based off of students' test scores for their state tests. And like I said before, there's so many outside factors that help for students to be able to learn. And some of this stuff is just out of teachers' control, such as having a home, such as wondering where food's coming from. Like, teachers can't control these things, and now their job is depending on this. You know, I work in a Title I school, which means it's majority poor. At least 75% of the students come from a poverty background. So it's really, really hard to have a Title I school held to those same standards as ones that are not, just because they don't have the same resources. They don't have the same opportunities that other schools have, and that makes it really, really hard. In Tennessee, just recently, I'd say within the last 2 years or so, they essentially, you know, eliminated how many seats can be a max in the classroom. So instead of having a maximum number of kids in the classroom, you can now go up to whatever you want. And I don't know, like I said, teachers have one of the hardest jobs. And when you have 25 kids in the classroom, it's already a lot. Mm-hmm. Like babysitting 25 kids. And you got a lot of teaching over. It's really hard. And it doesn't benefit the teachers, and it doesn't benefit the students, because there's no more of that one-to-one connection. A lot of times, like, kids thrive on connection, and that's how they learn, is just being able to really have that time with their teacher, instead of being afraid. If I raise my hand, am I going to be embarrassed? Am I going to ask a stupid question and be made fun of? especially in middle school. You know, they're very hyper aware of how they are and how they're perceived. So with these larger classrooms, it makes it harder for everybody all around, you know?
Yeah. And like what you just said, Melissa, it's so true that one-on-one connection is so important. And you really do lose that, you know, and we've seen that we've even seen that in college level where you have 120 students to one professor, and there's no way that you're able to even, you slip through the cracks, but you are not gaining any true knowledge from that professor. And so now you're looking at middle school who, like you said, are hyper aware of their surroundings, hyper aware of other students, don't want to raise their hand. I mean, it's such a great point. And any teacher, any school counselor, anybody who is in the education system is shaking their head yes with you right now, because they know. And you know, it's so important for people like myself who need to be more knowledgeable, people like, you know, what we can have others, you know, all our viewers and our listeners, as the more we become aware, the more we can start to make an impact into changing that. So, you know,
Absolutely.
And go ahead, I please continue.
Oh, no, you're fine. I would also say that, you know, as a result of the No Child Left Behind, rewinding it back a little bit, you know, as a result of that, we're kind of pushing kids forward. There's no accountability or stability in helping the kids grow and meet them where they're at. Instead, they just get pushed to the next grade.
Yeah.
Even if they're not ready. And research has shown that, you know, in elementary school, it is not as detrimental to hold the student back. But when you get to middle school, when you get to high school and they fail, the research has shown that this is going to be more problematic. And when you work in a poor area and you consistently are being pushed forward, knowing you're not having the supports in place and you're not ready, you are limiting that student's opportunities.
Wow.
And this is just my personal opinion here, but my biggest fear is, you know, these students that don't have the same opportunities or that come from troubled homes, or maybe mom works a part-time job at McDonald's, but she has to support 5 kids. Like, my fear is that these kids won't be able to do what they need to do to be productive citizens, and that they will turn to the streets to supplement an income. And unfortunately, we see that a lot. But it's scary that, you know, I do live in a state where they project how many prisons they're going to build off of 3rd grade state test scores. Crazy.
That is just unbelievable. So I want to take a moment. They are basing the amount of prisons that will be built on 3rd grade test scores.
Yes.
So I believe that majority of the people watching and listening to this right now will not know that, because that is not something that I feel like is common knowledge. And I feel like that is a great point for you to bring up, because that is 3rd grade, you know?
3rd grade.
You think about 9, 10 years old.
Students. Yeah, you are projecting that student's failure based off of their educational scores. So instead of investing the energy and the money and the time in the root of where you could really produce healthy, productive citizens, or at least a big portion of it in their education, you're kind of throwing a Band-Aid.
Wow.
Over a situation. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why I do what I do. You know, I don't want my students that I genuinely love and care about, to be a statistic. I don't want to work for a rich, not diverse school. That is the last thing I want. I want to be where the change is needed. And we desperately need counselors and therapists in Title I schools in areas of poverty, because those are the kids that truly need the most help.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important that you said that. And all those who are listening right now, all those who can reach out to other people who are in the education system, want to become a part of the education system, I think it's so important to be with us here today, listen to the things that Melissa is saying, her knowledge that she's taken from, years working within the school system, all her education, all her research. Melissa has a master's degree. She's done a lot of education, a lot of reading, a lot of statistical work, understanding, the background of, everything we're discussing here. And, it really is so impactful. I am a young female. I do not have any children at this time, but I have nephews and nieces, and I have friends who have children coming up in the American education system. And something, my mother working in the education system and often talking about No Child Left Behind and the impact that she sees from day to day. I think that it's a conversation we all need to have, even though it's difficult, because like you said, we don't want to be projecting their failure. We want to be impacting them and bringing them up and, becoming more aware of what they need and, being able to provide those basic needs and those educational needs, like you said. So, it's so important for us to discuss these topics because they really do impact us all in a different way. Like I said, I might not have children at this time, but these children are our future, and we want to be building for our future. So, I appreciate you, Melissa. I appreciate your time here because I, agree with you that we need more teachers, we need more therapists, we need more counselors in Title I schools who really care about the children and care about bringing them up. And that does not discredit the thousands and thousands of teachers, counselors, and therapists who are doing that every single day. So I want to shout out a huge thank you to all of you out there. And so, Melissa, I'm going to finalize us and close us out with one more question for you that I thought was really interesting from some conversations you and I had was, really moving away from the term guidance counselor and moving into the term school counselor, because this was something that I had learned, recently. And I, had always heard of a school guidance counselor and now calling them school counselors. And so if for our viewers and listeners who might not know already, what's a little bit about that change and, what that change kind of means?
Sure. So guidance counselors is the old term for what school counselors are. But essentially what guidance counselors did is they helped place people in jobs. They helped students navigate their career pathway. And that's really the extent of what they did. That was their job, was solely pretty much career focused. School counselors take the whole well-being of the child, and it's intentional. So it's data-driven interventions to help the students. It's research to show that these interventions are helping the students so we can track if what we're doing is working. And this goes for like emotional, mental, academics, like the whole well-being. And of course we do careers too. I want them to be productive and be able to find their passion, but there's just an added component to it for their academic, social, and emotional well-being that is very intentional. And, I have been very fortunate where I'm placed. When I started, we were all new counselors. So we really had the opportunity to build the foundation of what we wanted our comprehensive school counseling program to look like. We were able to develop, manage, and evaluate this comprehensive school program every single year to see the growth and see the areas where we're still struggling to help with our students. That's the work that goes into being a school counselor, is not only being there for the kids socially, emotionally, academically, and in career, but also to make sure that what we're doing is working. Yeah. And just kind of handing them some pamphlets and saying, okay, here's a good choice for you, or here's a good career. We're more interactive. We really want the students to be the best that they can be.
Yeah, I mean, not only incredible and necessary, but I think one of the biggest things that I heard and took from that was the intention behind it. Like you said, having that intention and having that, really that striving that you're trying to make them socially, emotionally, mentally, better for themselves now and in the future. And I think that that's so important. And I think that's also really great for others to know as well, you know, for those out there who might still be considering school counselors as guidance counselors and not really knowing the depths of which, you know, you guys do in not only the forefront, but behind the scenes as well. So all of this today, it can not only better me and all of our viewers and listeners, but anybody out there wanting to be in the education system, wanting to be a part of the education system, anyone who has children in the education system. These are important facts for us to know, and also very important opinions that you've shared as well, because you are in it and you are seeing it and you are a part of it. And we need people like you to be speaking up and be intentional the way you are, because our school system would fail without people like you and the amazing teachers and the amazing therapists that you know, so graciously put all your hard work every day, Melissa. So I really appreciate you being here with us today and, you know, talking about some things that have been difficult and really having a lot of great takeaways for everybody else here about the challenges that have been, you know, both COVID-19 related, but also those challenges that you also see from day to day with or without a pandemic as well. So I really appreciate that. And, you know, I always like to close up my sessions. I always feel that my professionals have one amazing takeaway that I always want them to share with all the viewers and listeners out there. So if there's one kind of key takeaway or piece of advice that you'd want to leave everyone with, what would that be today?
I would say one key thing that I would take away, and this is definitely going to be the counselor coming out in me, but it is that, you know, if you are a person that's on the fence with what you want to do and you're kind of scared to take that leap and really make a difference, my best advice is be honest and vulnerable with yourself and what you want and what your passion is. Because if you find something that makes you passionate and makes you motivated enough to show up and be the best version of yourself every single day, you will create change, regardless of what field you're in.
I love that. I love that. Yes. I love that so much. I always, you know, it never ceases to amaze me, Melissa, that, you know, I like ending with those last piece of advice and having such a personal moment with you there and really just seeing that counselor come out in you. But not only that, but the amazing person that you are and, you know, the motivating that you are and believing in change and passion. And I just love it so much. So everyone, you know, if you need some advice, please reach out. Melissa has been great with us here today. I want to thank you, Melissa, because you've been incredible and I truly appreciate your time. So as we wrap up, thank you so much. So Melissa's been with us on our 10th panel. We've officially hit double digits. So exciting. So yes, a round of applause for us. I'm so excited. So go ahead, check out the YouTube page. We have the We Who Work website coming soon, and go ahead and subscribe, like to everything. I'll leave Melissa's information in the description. And, you know, if you want to reach out on LinkedIn, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. And if you have questions or concerns or anything, please go ahead and, you know, reach out, share with one another, ask questions, do some research. It's just so important that we continue to do that. Remember to stay healthy in all of your wealth, and we are wealthy in our health, and we are happy, and we are passionate, and we can produce change just like Melissa said. So I want to thank you again, Melissa, for being here, and everybody else for listening and watching.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time.